That's the other part that you mentioned. I also wanted to touch upon is the first phase of awakening is that's why we call it waking up. Right? It's a very transcendent experience. It's literally identification moves up and out. I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm not this ego. Right? That's one of its movements. And when that happens, there's a sense of, pure beingness, all the nice, ways that people describe that. And there's a feeling that, okay, that's it. And the reason is because anytime you touch upon any aspect of reality, if you think of reality as like a diamond, any facet, every facet is a facet of the whole of reality, the whole of truth, right? So anytime you touch upon a facet or realize a facet, it feels like the entirety of it, even though it's not. Do you know?
Yes.
Okay, so then after a bit, however long that can be, then there's the other movement. Then don't take this too literally. It's kind of figuratively that now that movement starts to come back down and in. That which woke up starts to come down and in. And when it comes down and in, it comes back, it meets once again what you woke up from. And often what you woke up from is still there waiting for you. Do you know? And it's not like it all got enlightened and everything, right? You just woke up, you just left it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, in having somebody, over to your house that's a terrible guest. You solve it just by leaving the house. You leave it's your house, but you leave it. It's like, God, I'm glad to be done with the son of a bitch. But eventually you have to come home, and the guest is still there, right? So there's the sort of egoic shell. It's often much lighter. Mm-hmm. It's hollowed out to some degree. Depends for different people, but nonetheless, now this other movement is a movement of what I call, this is a true embodiment. So that now is coming through, it's going to inhabit in a certain sense this thing we call human beingness. And it seeks to express itself through human beingness. The human beingness will never be all perfect, enlightened and everything, right? Okay, because the human beingness is, in its own way, one of the things we come to grips with is its frailty, its perfect imperfection, right? It's a certain manifestation of reality, but it's different, right? But in order for it to do this, it's having to come to grips with, re-examine, re-encounter all the bits of confusion or identification that are still there. But it's weird now, because before you knew anything else, before there was any waking up and out, all you knew was this, right? And now you have these two things going on. You have this beautiful truth that you recognize, and then there's this human thing. And they can be sometimes very far apart, seemingly. One can be confused and one can be totally clear. In that sense, it can be a little schizophrenic, Or you can find yourself doing something and going, I know that wasn't true. Or you say something, you go, I know that's not true. Why did I say that? Or you're thinking it to yourself, this is not, everything in me knows that this isn't true. Now, why is it still rattling around over and over and over, right? It's because it doesn't know it's not true. See the difference? I know it's not true, but it doesn't know. So part of this is, it's an intuitive thing. And this sounds strange coming from a, quote, sort of spiritual teacher. But when you encounter those areas that are sort of cycle, those patterns that sort of cycle, because some of them go away when you disidentify with them, others remain. The instinct is to stay in the light of truth, right? Where I know it's not true. But that doesn't have an effect on some things, right? So you have to literally, willingly give up for a moment, knowing that it's not true. You sacrifice that. You willingly go into the untruth of it. So you go into it. You've sacrificed the greatest pearl.
Yeah, now you're touching it.
Okay? Because otherwise you can't get into it.
That's the point. Because I've been there.
Yes.
I know it all.
That's right.
But that knowing is no longer here. It's here.
Yeah.
But I still know it.
Yeah.
Nobody could come up to me, but how do you know? I just know. I don't even need to prove it. I was there. I saw it. I lived it.
Yeah.
But I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
Well, at least not right now.
Mm.
And that's it.
It's the human part.
It's having to surrender to the not knowing when I know.
Mm-hmm. That's it. As strange as that sounds, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. And it is a surrender, because it's like I'm surrendering heaven and truth so that I can get access into illusion. It's like, now that's weird. That's the opposite that I was trying to do before. I was trying to get out of illusion, and now I'm trying to get back into it. Because unless you can get back into it, it's going to still stay an illusion. So it's an act of humility, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
In other words, just for you to come up here and give it voice was an act of humility too.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Enjoy yourself. Yeah. And there's a balance to it all, isn't there? Because the balance to it all is that it's like you sacrifice that knowingness of truth for a moment to really get inside. That's an act. That takes some humility, right? Get into that place where you willingly allow yourself to become the confusion, or become the whatever it is, the panic, the fear, that you're letting yourself go back in there. And the strange thing is, when you do it in that way, you're doing it as a conscious act, right? You know what you're doing. You're not being sucked in. It's not an unconscious thing. You are willingly and knowingly do it. And that when you willingly and knowingly do it, you actually never lose the connection with the truth. If you just pulled there unconsciously, it can seem like you've lost the connection. But when you willingly do it, it's always there, isn't it? It's there. And that's first you wake up from your illusions, and then your illusions wake up. And you have to get inside of them for them to wake up. At least the more fundamental ones, do you know? The ones that aren't quite as fundamental, they can just get blasted out of your system. And sometimes people ask, well, how do I know the ones I need to pay attention to? Well, the ones that just pop up, no, they're cyclic, you know? Even if you go, okay, I'm pure consciousness, and I know I'm not this, and it makes you feel for a moment sometimes, it's all okay. There actually isn't a problem. Everything's wonderful. Pure beingness. I'm not, and it seems to disappear for a moment, doesn't it? And then a minute later, an hour, or tomorrow, it's back. And then it's back, and then it's back. And the things that are cyclic, that's the way that life is telling you, this is the one to pay attention to. That's the one. You know, then it's not difficult, do you know? Or you could just say, the one that's currently arising. That's probably the easiest, you know. If it's here now, that's the one. If it's not here now, don't worry about it. Wait till it is here now. Do you know? And the balance is and again, what I found is this just happens. It happens much easier when there's some understanding of it. This isn't like a get perfect sort of program, right? To get my humanness all perfect and saintly. That's not what it's about. It's not about becoming the perfect person. It's not about any of that. It has no goal to it, because you don't know where it's going. You don't know what it wants. And that's the place to stay, you see. So otherwise it becomes goal-oriented. You think you're going to be, you're supposed to be becoming a saint. It's none of that. It's none of that. It's something totally different. And most people, it's changing now. I used to try to talk about this very thing that we just talked about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody. Everybody was like, oh, you're just talking about becoming and, and you're just, if it was, we all just have this new awakening and da-da-da-da-da, and everybody was very happy and everything. I remember going home from a trip to LA and saying to the person that I was with at the time, I said, I wonder what's going to happen when the other shoe drops. And the other shoe was when they actually realized it's not quite that simple. For some people it is. If you have the karmic inheritance of a flea, it can be pretty much. But most people, when they kind of come back from the spiritual honeymoon, there's a little house cleaning that wants to be done, just so this thing can move and express through your humanity. It can utilize your humanity. Your humanity is always going to be human, and that's one of the biggest things that I've found is the biggest embrace that any of you are ever going to make in your entire life is the embrace of the totality of your humanness. That's the biggest act of love you'll ever have to pull off. And when you've done that, you will have automatically embraced everybody's humanness everywhere. Your argument with the world will be done when you can embrace your own. Embrace it without, excusing it or making it this or making it that, or just the embrace of it. Complete embrace. You don't have to re-identify to embrace. But it does take some humility to embrace it, to